Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I wanted to tell you that this session that we're going to have today is about soft skills, is about, what really children need today as career counselors. What do we need to do with them? So I am Seema Sapru. This photograph, it doesn't look like me, but anyway, I'm Seema Sapru and I'm the principal of the Heritage School, Kolkata. So over to you, Divya.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Divya Verma. I'm career counselor at the Scindia School, Gwalior.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tsvety Karaivanova, and I'm the Director of International Recruitment at Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio.
So three of us are going to make a presentation today. So we'll start with the presentation. I hope you enjoy our presentation. It's nice. I mean, we worked hard on it. So let's take the quiz first. So I want everyone to scan this QR code and take the quiz. It's interesting. Do you get the quiz? You've got the quiz? So please answer the questions. You have a QR code scanner? Or you could use this link as well. So interesting, the quiz is interesting? Yes? We can move up because the quiz questions are there.
Oh, we already lost our clicker. We haven't even started yet.
Are you done with the quiz? Yes, please, ma'am, please. Please join us here right in front. And please scan the quiz, scan the QR code, and you'll be able to answer a few questions here. Ma'am, can I help you?
It's not reading the results.
Required. It is not. Done? Quiz is done? You find the quiz interesting? Okay. So now, shall we move on to the next slide for our presentation? So here we go. This is what we're talking about. You know, the first thing that struck me was that we're talking about AI these days, and we're also talking about futuristic learning, and we're talking about jobs of the future and everything else. When you're talking about, we're saying AI, which is artificial intelligence. But you know what? I realized while we were discussing with each other, it's less artificial and more intelligent. Isn't it? It's getting, with time, it's getting less artificial and more intelligent. In fact, I was reading about this. Of course, how many of you are using ChatGPT? Tell me. We're all using ChatGPT. So we're using ChatGPT and we're making our lives a little easier. However, there is this in 2021, the world's most advanced robot was made, who's called Amika, A-M-E-C-A. So this Amika, she, of course, not she, it, because it is gender neutral. This robot is gender neutral, and it talks about, it has multiple intelligences, and it has multilingual and everything else. And the latest thing that has happened to this robot is Amika is also drawing, and it has drawn a cat recently. So this is what we're talking about. Now it's becoming less artificial and more intelligent as time goes by. Now, next is why teach soft skills. I wanted to tell you, not tell you, actually, you already know about it. You know about the VUCA world, how, we're talking about volatile, and we're talking about uncertain, and we're talking about complex, and we're talking about ambiguous. So this VUCA world, when we're talking about, what I've seen is everything is customized these days. The parents are very clear about it. My son is going to school. After school, he's going to karate class. After class, he's going to, drama class. And then after drama class, he's going to go to his maths class. And then he comes, he has his dinner, which, they have to be very clear. You have to eat millets. Only millets and nothing else. And no butter, no sugar. So we have to tell our parents, sir, children are growing. They need butter. They need fat. They need carbohydrates. You are an old person. You don't eat carbohydrates and fats. Why are you asking the little children not to eat any of those things anyway? So when we're talking about soft skills, remember, we are customizing everything. Do you think when the problem comes, the problem is going to make a phone call and say, can I come? I'm standing here so that, okay. So I was saying that, everything is customized for children. However, problems cannot be customized. Earthquake is not going to make a phone call and say, can I come to your house today? So what is happening is everything is multidisciplinary, and so are the problems. So unless we train our children to take these problems as, normal course of life, that yes, there is a problem, let's solve it. There is a problem, let's sit together and, discuss and do something about it. Not crumble under pressure, because that is what is happening. The fragility among children is so much that we find it very difficult for children to understand what exactly needs to be done when there is a problem. Ghar mein khana nahi hai, to kya kare? What is it when there's no food at home? Do I go hungry? No. I have this ATM card and I'm going to immediately call Swiggy to get me food, because that's what we are training them for. Nobody knows how to cook. So the third point here that I'm going to make is, how do we decide what is right, what is wrong? Because what we say is generally right, but how we say it matters a lot. Then I just wanted to show you something else here. Communication. Now I'll just walk into the class here like this, and I'll talk to you like this, or I'll walk like this and I'll talk to you like this, or I'll come and talk to you like this. So when I'm talking to you, I'm sure there is a lot of non-verbal communication that is happening. So how do I show my interaction and my learning and my, whatever my pedagogy or my transaction of the curriculum that I'm doing in the classroom, how do I show that? Is it only verbal, or is it a lot non-verbal also? So reading between the lines is very important. Secondly, when these children immediately after class 12, when they're supposed to go for interviews, when they have their LOR, when people are called, what is happening there? Children have prepared their answers. They're not listening to comprehend. They're listening to respond and to answer. Sometimes not even respond, it's react. So they are immediately answering what they have prepared in their heads. They're not listening and comprehending. So can we train them to not just, listen to respond, but to listen to absorb, comprehend, and then reply and then respond. So now this is as far as the requirements of colleges are concerned. Next, can we have the next slide, please? So these you can find on the net as well. So these are the 7 C's that we talk about in communication. And I think each one of them is very, very important. Each one of them, these are on the internet. I haven't made them myself. The other things that I'd written were, of course, read from everywhere, wherever, and you put it together. However, these are from the internet, so nothing, not my contribution to it at all. Next point. So next point is adaptability and agility. See, the 3 of us have been working together, Tsvety, Divya, and I. We work together. If the 3 of us work in silos, and 3 of us are brilliant, but the presentation today doesn't work, and it doesn't reach the audience, and the outcome is 0, which means we're not good team players. We know our jobs, but when it comes to team, because whatever happens, even if the children are working from home, they're not working alone, because there is somebody who they have to report to. There is somebody who's their colleague. There is somebody who they have to do their project with. They're not working all by themselves. And unfortunately, in the last few years, what we've seen is these children, because they're interacting only with the machines, they feel very nervous in a crowd. They don't want to, they'll be very happy playing chess with the computer, but they don't want to play chess with a human. So these things are happening. And I must tell you, this was in Calcutta, because I come from Calcutta. There was a news article where they said that these children, some of them have become so friendly with the machine, they wouldn't leave the machine at all, that they wouldn't go for these toilet breaks. They wouldn't go to eat anything. So the parents are, the mother is preparing a, a kind of a, she's blending everything together and giving them a sipper for the child to be able to eat something. And when they don't go for toilet breaks, they're using adult diapers, but not going out. So you can imagine what level has it reached. So soft skills are so important, because these children need to be meeting with real people and making sure that they have enough, friends, and there is a social circle around them who can say no to them, who can argue with them, and who can say, no, I'm not doing anything that you're asking me to do. So that's important. So a resilience curriculum has to be made in the classrooms. So ma'am, please take over. And these are the ways I think, if we do that in schools, I think it does help, because we've been doing it and we have seen the outcome is as per our expectations. It helps. Next point, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Before I start, again, a warm welcome to all ladies and gentlemen. One question. I want to know how many of us are career counselors? Please raise your hands. Yeah. Thank you so much. I assume rest are principals or teachers at their respective schools. So our team thought that why I asked for career counselor, first of all, that I wanted to understand how many of you would be able to connect with my thought process and how we are going to place our students in different colleges, what is required. And of course, I would like to share my experiences, and everyone is welcome to share theirs also. Okay. So the team, we have been working on what skills are important, necessary, and why skills are important in the years to come. And I believe they have always been important. So the 2 skills which I thought I'll share with you. The first one is, of course, the critical thinking. While brainstorming, we realize that what usually happens, we have such big names thrown at us. We know their meaning somehow, but we lose track of the fact that how do we implement them actually? When we go back to our schools, they usually get confined to discussions or in conference rooms. We understood the meaning, great, sounds wonderful, but when we are back to our schools and really everyday working, how to really implement. It's not that the moment we walk out of the room or we go back to our schools, everybody is expert in critical thinking, or I am expert at that. But I think we all need to implement certain skills or activities, or figure out a way so that our students are equipped with the right kind of skills, because skills are what's going to save us. We are looking at a dynamic future. I'm sure we all have heard the fact that the kind of jobs we are preparing them to work, they don't exist. God knows how they're going to be, what their nature or scope is. So I think ultimately what's going to save all of us, even as adults, I don't know how our job profile is going to be 5 years down the line. I think it is our skill sets which are going to help us, save us, make us better, make us happy, be efficient all the time. And let's not forget that, and I'm sure none of us forgets the fact that we are living in an age of internet, and social media has come to, I mean, it's influencing us professionally and personally. How people are recruited, we all are aware. They scan our profiles, all online profiles, they are scanned. AI is recruiting us now. They look at our profiles. Is it suitable to the job that is being offered? They match it. If it is, it's not a human being who is doing that. So see, it's a very dynamic world. Things are so different than what they used to be when we were 20 years back, 10 years back, when we were trying to figure out what to do in our lives. And so what is critical thinking? Let me come back to the topic. And it is simply that how we observe, analyze things, and try and solve any particular situation. It's a very simple thing. How we are observing things around us, how we are analyzing, we are putting in a fresh perspective, and asking right questions, applying facts, ideas. So these are, see, I'm sure you all have seen your students do that. And I can share a few of the instances wherein few of my students, they end up choosing options in higher education and in jobs which are not related to the academics. I have a student who wanted to do a radio jockey program, and he's doing the same from the UK because he was good in music, composition part also. So it's not definitely related to his academics part. Likewise, I have a student who was very good with horse riding, so he's doing an equestrian management program, again from UK. So I'm sure in the years to come, we would realize and see that a number of our students are choosing programs and career options which are directly related to their skill sets rather than their scorecards, mark sheets. How much did they get in their 10th, 12th, etc. I think we all have done a lot of homework on that now our NEP is also talking about including lots of skills, bringing vocational education and make it a part of our curriculums. It has been left to schools, students, parents to figure out how to develop skills. But we all know that now we have this government policy wherein we are going to incorporate vocational training and skill development in our curriculums. There are few words, well, when I was going through the document about NEP, which I would like to share with all of us, and I think they are going to help us. Lifelong learning. And I think as adults and for our students, we should definitely emphasize on this words, that we should, in that frame of mind, that we are open to lifelong learning. They talk about incubation centers, which can be possible in certain schools, not possible in some of the schools. But I think giving exposure to different kinds of activities, being open to learning, allowing them to have interdisciplinary experiences are the key. That will not only help them figure out their skill sets. We all have latent talents. Sometimes it becomes latent throughout our life because we didn't get perhaps the right opportunity, and nobody asked us that, can you do that? Or nobody gives us the opportunity to be somewhere, perform, learn something. So I think as career counselors and as principals and administrators and teachers, I think it's a long journey. I don't know how is it going to be implemented, and every school would definitely have their own agenda, their own ways of implementing things. But if we expose them, I think it can be anything. We all have sports and extracurricular activities, for example, from painting to music to clay modeling, MUNs, Round Square. There's so many platforms, which at least I can say a few of my, coming from my experience, I can share, not comparing, that yes, when I see a student who's involved in these activities, comes out a little bit more clear in terms of what program would suit him more. So this is one example which I can share from my experiences, that extracurricular activities or the discussions, activities, interactions which happen out of classroom, they definitely help bring out that spark in a student or help him develop his skills. I again thought that I will include this creativity, innovation, one of the another skill. Again, we are not all of us are scientists with fuzzy hairs, and we need not be to be creative. And sometimes we all say that I don't know how to paint, so I'm not creative. So creativity is definitely not something only confined to people who paint or who can, who can, so sorry, I'm taking a lot of time. So who can paint or who can dance. Creativity is about being flexible, adaptable, looking at things from a very new perspective. All of us are creative if we have this wonderful, fresh, original, genuine perspective to any solution problem. Yeah, and all skill sets that we are going to talk about, I think we all will agree that they all are interdependent. If you learn a new technology, it's not that it is only going to make you learn AI, for example, or Python or C++. It will also make you agile, adaptable, help you develop critical thinking. So it is my request, and it is coming from my experience, that if we allow our students to have varied experiences, it'll help them develop the right kind of skills more than perhaps we do in a particular classroom setup. And now I will pass it on to and hand over to Tsvety. And I'm so sorry I took a little bit more time.
Before we pass it on to Tsvety, I wanted you to know all those who ask questions will get candies and chocolates.
So those of you who are joining us online, you're a little bit out of luck on that one. So when we were putting this presentation together, we wanted to bring our personal perspective and kind of highlight what kind of soft skills we, as a principal, as a high school counselor, as someone who's been working in international student scholar services and international admission at the university, think are important. And I particularly wanted to start with resilience because I attribute my resilience as the reason for success of where I am today. And I have seen this with my friends, and I have seen it with the international students I've been advising for the past 7 years. So what is resilience? Obviously, it's right there, advising despite adversity. But the ability to not just overcome hurdles, but how quickly you bounce back is even more important, because in today's world, when we're pushing students to do more and accomplish more, and we often say, never give up, keep going. Sometimes it's okay to give up and not necessarily say, I'm not good at this, I'm giving up. It's, I'm reshifting my focus and my energy into something more meaningful because this is not worth it. So how do you foster resilience in high school students? Well, you allow them to make mistakes. They're in school. It's okay. Maybe you come up with assignments that are just, let's work on a rough draft and not necessarily this is the final product. And let's see what you can do. And let's see how we can improve and get you to that 100% score. Or maybe you give them the test back and you just mark what's wrong, but let them go back and do the research and find out what is actually the correct answer. How many of you, it's okay. How many of you know what SMART stands for? Well, thank you so much. I don't need to say anything more. It sounds like I'm among experts on this one. But yes, I think it's very important to encourage, especially young people, how to set SMART goals so they don't have an unrealistic expectation and end up disappointed. Help them develop problem-solving skills. Maybe you have a student who is willing to share a problem they're facing, whether in academics or personal, and have their classmates help them come up with a solution. So that would foster creative thinking, that would foster teamwork, that would foster empathy. And that would give a sense of pride to the group of students that came up with a solution for their friend, but it also teach them that it's okay to ask for help. I think we often overlook that one. And then promote positive emotions and practice gratitude. And that goes beyond just saying thank you. Think about what are you grateful for? And it doesn't have to be some big accomplishment that you just had, because when you're having a bad day, when you're having a bad week or a bad month, and you all think about is your failures. I'm sure we don't have many of those, right? But start your advising session or start your class with one thing that your students can share. What are they grateful for today? And it could be something very small, but what that would accomplish is when they're feeling down, they would always go back and think about what is that one thing that is going really well in my life right now and I'm thankful for. Next slide. So emotional intelligence, to kind of wrap up everything Divya and Seema and I have been talking about, because really all these different skills we've been mentioning, it all comes together into this idea of emotional intelligence. So who knows what's an IQ? Okay, how many of you have taken an IQ test? Great, let's compare results. No, I'm just joking. I'll throw some extra candy for stressing you out on that one. But so how many of you have taken an EQ test? Oh, great, great. So earlier we had a conversation about, well, can you really measure an emotional intelligence? And it's a tool I've taken a few years ago. It really is a tool that helps you think about yourself, how well you know yourself, and how your environment and your emotions dictate your reactions. And then when you become very self-aware, you move on to being able to, in a way, read other people's emotions and how that helps you manage your relationships with others. So not only how you present yourself, but also how you influence your relationship management with your peers. So unlike IQ, unfortunately, you either have it, very high or no. EQ is not static. You could, in fact, improve your emotional intelligence, and there are different tools you could use. And it's important to remember, I think, we often talk about emotions or expressing emotions as a negative thing. We tell little children, oh, don't be loud, don't express your joy, don't be creating noise. Boys don't cry. They absolutely do. So how are we expecting to have emotionally intelligent people when from very early age, we suppress that part and tell them you shouldn't be expressing your emotions? Now, to be clear, it doesn't mean acting out on all of your emotions. I do not advise that. But being able to understand what makes you react and being able to manage that. So one thing I want to highlight, and goes back to what Seema was saying, being an active listener. To truly be an emotionally intelligent, you need to seek to understand and then be understood. So first you need to understand and then try to be understood. Because if we're all focused on other people understanding us all the time, and we don't focus on understanding them, if everybody is doing that, who's going to be understanding us? So we need to be more of an active listeners and asking more questions. So what does that mean for you as teachers and counselors? Well, you're role models. So the peers are the most influential part in students' lives, but right after that, it's parents and high school counselors and teachers. So how do you present yourself in the classroom or in an advising session? And most importantly, how you can factor that into career and college advising. So in the college essay, for those students who are going to college, this is where they can talk about their soft skills. Because we know about their great academic achievements from looking at their transcripts, right? So we want to know, are they a creative thinker? Are they a team player? Are they a problem solver? When you write those letters of recommendation, this is a perfect opportunity for you to highlight those soft skills of your students. So in conclusion, why do soft skills matter? How many of you know how many of the top 10 jobs that were in demand 10 years ago are still in demand today in top 10? One, computer science. Just one career that was in top 10 in demand 10 years ago is still in top 10 today. So how can you future-proof students for success when you don't know the future. Where you teach them soft skills, you teach them to be resilient, you teach them to be creative thinkers, you teach them to be team player, you teach them to be emotionally intelligent, empathetic, and on and on and on. Because at the end of the day, when they're applying for school or they're applying for a job and they say, I'm top of my class, I have always, and I know how to code. Great, I just interviewed 10 other students who can do that. Tell me more. Tell me what else can you bring to the table. So we'll leave you today, yes, with some candy, but also some homework, as you're the teachers and counselors, inspiring the next generation of leaders of the world. We hope that you think about the soft skills and help prepare them for a future that is less artificial and more emotionally intelligent. And at the very end, we would like to share some resources with you.
You want them to take the quiz?
Okay, has everybody taken a photo of this? Okay. Maybe we can go back and have you retake the quiz for those of you who joined late. And those are links. I believe the slides will be shared with the audience at the end, so you can just click on the link and it will take you to the article. Okay, then let's maybe bring back to the... And then we can go into a Q&A. And for those of you who are joining us from all parts of the world, please go ahead and type any questions you have in the chat, and then we can engage in a discussion.
Same one, because I think most people weren't here at the time in the beginning, so we would like to take the quiz. This isn't to assess you, this is a quiz to assess ourselves. This is just a quiz to assess ourselves and not to assess anyone else.
Yes.
Am I right? So we just need to know what we think about career counseling and soft skills.
Are we ready to go to Q&A?
Please.
All right, so maybe we can open it for questions or discussion.
How many of you face problems in the school where for small little things, parents come and question the teachers, the principals, the counselors? That's one thing. And secondly, how many of you feel that the number of children with problems have increased, considerably
Right.
post the
Okay.
pandemic? So if you have questions regarding that, not that, please ask simple questions, because don't ask difficult questions because we don't know the answers.
But we can come up with answers together. Teamwork.
Yes.
Teamwork.
So we'll discuss together, and then I'm sure. Yeah, ma'am, please take.
I just wanted to add that when we talk about emotional intelligence, I think it's the educators where it also needs to come from, because unless you're an empowered educator who's ready to see, bring it on the table, it's very difficult for children to feel safe, secure, or get encouraged towards an EQ, which is a value add. So I think while we look at child centricism and the understanding that I had through the IC3 conference, through various sessions, is that we're looking at the being human-centric, and human-centric includes educators, counselors, all the stakeholders. And that's also a resource we really need to work on.
Yes, I think it's important to make sure that students see us as human beings who, yes, we are very successful, but we didn't just wake up one day and became successful. We also made mistakes along the way. So I really make it a point, especially at when I first meet with international students or international student orientation, I always share my experience when I first moved to the US, and I made so many cultural faux pas and embarrassed myself in a way. But I think that just but I'm setting that example, and I'm creating this relationship with them as to where they feel less nervous, but also feel more related, and they can come and approach me for questions or if they need help. Yes.
Yeah. So, I had a session before this also, which was talking about skills. And, what part attracted me from this thing is resilience. So what is happening is that, okay, we are trying to develop critical thinking and we are asking them agree to disagree. So we are putting that forward that, okay, fine, it's okay to disagree. And as teens, they are somewhere using it as a wand that everything a teacher says or everything is put in the classroom, they will say, ma'am, critical thinking, critical thinking. So the point over here is that when we are giving them an assignment and where critical thinking is not happening and resilience is coming into picture, so I think resilience is a a key takeaway for as teachers or students, that how important it is to build resilience in the classroom as well. So I feel that is.
Thank you.
Could I add a little bit here? Because when we talk about resilience, the first thing that we have to, understand, all of us, is that critical thinking is not something that we talk about. Critical thinking is something that we do in the classroom. When we're doing experiential learning, when NEP says experiential learning, when we say, okay, fine, we're going to the laboratories and we're doing some work. So how you assign them with work, how the projects are, given to children, and how everything is open-ended. So if you give them open-ended questions with a whole lot of books, let them refer to books, let them refer to anything they want to. So that in any case brings resilience, because parents come back and say, oh, this was not in the syllabus. This was not at the back of the chapter. These questions weren't there. Why have you asked them? So the fact remains how we ask our children to respond. Say if it was some story, Shakespeare. Now, if you ask who was the merchant in Merchant of Venice, or if you had to ask if there was no merchant, if the merchant was very merciful, you have to ask them questions which, involves interaction, discussions, and then you come to a conclusion. But at the same time, when it's science or history or anything, you have to have a scientific evidence to it. You have to have a historical evidence to it. There has to be a reasoning. You can't just write any answer you feel like and say, fine, it is open-ended, I can write whatever I feel like. No, there has to be a valid reason. There has to be a valid, evidence to it. That's what it should be.
Hi, good morning, Tsvety. Just had a question regarding the emotional quotient. You said it's not static and it can be learned and strengthened, and there are some tools which can be done to strengthen that. Can you talk a little bit more about the tools?
Sure. So I think mostly you can work on that yourself through some exercises, and there is a certain tool that I was able to use as part of my master's degree. I can share the information with you, but it's something you'd probably have to subscribe. They have to make their money. They came up with this high in demand test now. But I think just think about it. What is it that you do every day? If we're having a conversation and let's say we meet together all the time, and then you notice every time you speak, maybe I don't maintain eye contact, and you're thinking, oh, Tsvety doesn't respect me because she doesn't look me in the eyes, and she doesn't want to work with me, and I don't want to work with her. So you keep thinking this, but you never ask me, why do I not maintain eye contact when I talk to you? So you're now thinking, I'm not a good person. We cannot work together in a team. When if you ask me, Tsvety, I've noticed when I speak, you don't maintain eye contact with me. What is going on? And then maybe I'll say, what was your name? Nirupama, I am very shy. Or in my culture, it's a sign of disrespect if I'm staring with you. And then you're thinking, oh, it wasn't me. And Tsvety is not a mean person. But because you never asked me this question, now you and I are not going to have the wonderful relationship we could. So what are these little things that you do every day that could help you learn about yourself? I think just knowing how you manage conflict. So if you and I, again, having a discussion and you absolutely don't want to listen to me and, run out of the room because I said something that made you really angry, but I didn't realize that I was that person. I wasn't very emotionally intelligent. A few years ago, I was very quick to get angry and not take a minute, take a deep breath and think about, okay, what is going on in this moment? Why am I feeling this way? And why am I about to be not very nice to this person? And that would affect our relationship for the rest of, well, we're probably not going to be together very long, but especially if we're not getting along. So just thinking about, why am I reacting this way? What is setting me off? So once you know how you express your emotions in response to others, then you become more self-aware and you start thinking, especially when you think you're about to get into a situation where it's going to make you angry, maybe you need to leave the room for a few minutes and then come back.
So the tool that you're talking about probably helps you in what way in doing this?
I think what was good about this tool is it was an assessment. So I had to answer a lot of questions. How would I react in certain situations? But it was a 360 assessment. So then I had to select 6 to 8 other peers who would also assess me. So how I view myself, how I interact with others, but also how others view me. So in the end, it would tell you.
Can I also add one point on this?
Yes.
Tsvety? I'm sure, ma'am, there'll be tools that help you figure out and assess how emotionally intelligent you are. But as far as school students are concerned, if we involve them in service projects, put them in a situation where they get to understand different perspectives, and their exercises like be in another shoe and come back and share it with their service project leaders or psychological counselors, career counselors. So I think that helps them understand the fact that they are not the center of the universe. There are bigger problems than them. There are people who are well off or not so well off than they are, and how their life is different from there, but then we need to respect and accept the way we are. So I think service projects, from a school perspective specifically, they help a student understand and appreciate differences in lives and develop that empathy and develop that emotional intelligence. But of course, it's not a measurable kind of a thing where I can say that X, and you can measure that after 3 projects how the style is doing. But yes, we have seen a perceptible difference in students' perception and accepting and understanding humans and the differences in our lives.
So to the same point, I'll just add a little bit that what we do in our school is, there are schools, rich schools, not very rich schools, premier schools. We know that there are children who are going to see NASA, and, children from India going to the US, children from India going to, CERN, to Europe, children going to Egypt to see the pyramids, children going everywhere. However, we decided that we will take our children only to, we're staying in West Bengal. There are very, very small towns, and West Bengal is a comparatively poor state. And so we started taking them to, class 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. By the time they're in class 9, they've been to Bishnupur, Purulia, Murshidabad. They go to Shantiniketan. So these are very small places near the city, near Calcutta, in West Bengal. So there they go and they see how difficult it is to live there. There's no mall there. There's no theater there. There is, everything is neat, clean, because it's the people of that small little village who work hard. So our children go there, 250 children of each class per year go there, and they train them. They talk about mental health, they talk about physical well-being. They collect a whole lot of stuff and they take it for them. So that is how they know what she said about service. It's so important for them to know that just because you didn't get Apple 10 or Apple 12 or Apple 15, so you're wanting to commit suicide because you didn't get Apple 10. And there are children who you take those bananas for them. They don't even know that they have to peel the banana. They are eating the banana with the peel. So they've never eaten that. They're using dried leaves when they have periods. They are using leaves. So when you go and see that, then you come back a little wiser.
I have a question. Actually, we are speaking about skills and we are speaking about how school can contribute. From a career and college counselor perspective, how do you encourage students to develop those skills from the career office, the college office, and developing those skills for application apart from building the profile and all that? Because when we are speaking about a national curriculum, not everyone goes overseas. So our students are very, very, tunnel based vision. So we have students who actually either stay back and then they are not doing anything about developing profile. And then on the other hand, you have students who are applying overseas and they're doing all out. So for me, the question comes is for this section of the students, how do we encourage them to develop their profiles from the counselor's office rather than only involving school? School does a lot of work, but from a career counselor perspective, what are the things we should be doing? Thank you.
Thank you. So, ma'am, from specifically from a career counselor's perspective, I am lucky in terms of that it's a boarding school. So we have more times at hand. And we start interacting with them we are from 6 to 12. So I start interacting from them from class 6 onwards, wherein I put up a very small questionnaire to them, first trying to understand where their interests lie. And then I encourage them to at least participate in 3 activities in the year 1. So it can be sports. Apart from sports, you have to choose any 2 activities. It can be anything and explore. Until 8th standard, we give them opportunity and liberty to jump from one hobby to another. So that, this is the stage which is wherein they are not even clear what they like and what they don't like. And the responsibility to understand students' interest outside the classroom lies with the career cell. I'm talking, specifically to what I am doing. And that is how we maintain the record that ex-student started with clay modeling, but perhaps by the time he's in 8th, he thought that painting is what he's interested in. And then we have discussions with the hobby in charges, sports in charges, and then whenever we have any expert coming from outside to understand, sometimes we push students. So he's in a class just because I pushed him to be there, otherwise, or to choose. And there are students who don't want to be in either of the hobbies. So it can be a possibility. It's not possible that every one of us are interested in. But being a boarding school, at least sports is one thing that clicks with all of them. You would agree that boys cannot live without sports. So even if they cannot find painting or music or anything interesting, sports is the safest option. So I think we need to understand our cohort. And some you are very easy to figure out, and some take till 9th and 10th to really understand what they want to do. So it definitely happens. But if we start early, then they do not have that profile building in their minds. Sometimes they want to win medals. Sometimes they want a good report goes to their family. Sometimes they want to be the hero of the house. So there are different motivations that triggers for different students. But I think starting early is the key. That I would like to share there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go here first. Thank you. I just have a question for you, ma'am. I have a student in grade 10.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the parent is putting a lot of pressure on her for taking ad math, something that and the student is very good at her, what she does. She's very good in her studies. But the way the parental pressure is so high that the child is not taking interest in any of the school activities. Like she's saying, no, this is not worth it. I mean, why should I waste my time on this? Though we know that there is an internal struggle in the child, when we speak to her, she's like, there's so much pressure. I need to go for tuitions on Saturdays and Sundays. So she's not taking part in any competitions. When we tried speaking to that parent saying, the child is struggling, we can see that the father is like, I know what's best for my child. So how do you deal with, parents like this? Right. And I have a thought also, which I will share later.
Definitely, ma'am. I think, ma'am, what I do if it comes to the fact that they are not responding to mails and calls and saying that we know what is best for our child, I invite them over to campus. I invite them all the way wherever they are to Gwalior. I invite them and I want them to sit with me and the subject teacher. And then I have an interview with them wherein I try to be very, very curt in terms of that if you would want your child to be happy, first and foremost, and then perform better, then you need to listen to the child. And the subject teacher is one that really helps me at that moment, because see, they would feel that being a career counselor, I won't know his strength, what's happening in the class, and which is true at to a certain extent. But when the science HOD says that, please, it is way beyond a child, or see, we being a parent, we all know every parent wants to listen that my child is the brightest, and agree, every child has some or the other good thing. It can be academics or non-academics, but then we try and we keep all the academic records with us, so the data speaks. And the second interview is when I invite the child also. So if the child is sitting there, they see the child is miserable, not happy. Sometimes it ends in argument and fights. And the third stage is principle. It works, but there are times when it doesn't work. But this is how I deal with it.
Yeah, another thing is about like skill-based, learning. Just one thought that crossed my mind, because I attended Mr. Anil Srinivasan's session yesterday, and we're talking about, skill-based learning comes from the teachers because they are in the classroom, right? And most of us, at least my generation, did not learn that way. We learned content, we learned,
Same,
and
ma'am,
just,
we all
yeah.
do.
So I think what schools need to focus, what heads need to focus on is training teachers. And this I've been saying again and again in Cambridge community meets, wherever I go, that, concentrate on training the teachers, which is not so high on priority list of schools, because ultimately it's the teachers who are in the, classroom training. Like yesterday, Mr. Srinivasan was talking about project-based learning. He said, we're gonna get the teachers to do the, PBL first and then get them to implement. And I wanted to tell him that before you get to teachers, get the heads in management to do the PBL first, because they are the ones who will take the decisions. So
Agree, ma'am.
Yeah.
Agree completely. It
Yeah.
happens. Sometimes teachers feel I am not able to finish my syllabus, forget about the skill.
Yeah.
And then who will finish the syllabus?
yeah,
And
exactly.
And the HOD says, Divya, you are not going to be answerable by the end of the year when it says, where is the result?
Exactly.
You were not able to finish this much of part. So, ma'am, there's
Correct.
a struggle always, but I
Yeah.
think combined meetings, and I think the boarding school setup helps me a lot.
Yeah.
Here, I would say at the level of the school, see, if all of us teachers had, say, about 1 month, 2 months to sit down and work on a curriculum where we decide that this project-based curriculum would actually cover all this, not cover, actually uncover. Actually, we'll be able to do everything together with a faster pace. And now that we've got hybrid thing happening, so if I have all the resource material which I sent to the children's homes, and if I make mind maps, if I make a flow chart, if I try and do everything like that, I'm sure we will be able to do it in a faster way. It's not the time, it's just that we as teachers need more time to, organize the entire thing. Once we get the time and we do it, I'm sure it will be much faster. Isn't it? We need time. We need time to yes. But we can do it during our vacations, or we can do it some other time like that.
I would like to add up on what ma'am was saying is, I think we have been brought up in such a way, most of us, that we feel skill-based learning and completion of syllabus are two different things, which is not true. Which is not true. Anything can be, I'm not saying 100% of the syllabus, but at least 50% of the syllabus, which is concept based and where we should focus more, can be converted into a skill based learning. Like ma'am gave a very good example of who was the merchant versus what if it was a different merchant, or what if there was no merchant, or what if there were two merchants instead of one merchant. So it is an open-ended question, and there has to be logical reasoning behind how the child is answering. And these can be the form of assessment for our internal assessment, not for the boards. We can't change the boards, but where we have control. At least one question in the entire question paper can be like this. And wherever it is more of completion of syllabus, it can be asynchronous learning where we give the resources to the children. Because if it is just memorizing part, they can make a graphic organizer, they can make a flow chart and read it by themselves. Because this is a struggle I face all the time when I try to tell my physics teachers, goes hand in hand. Completion of syllabus and skill-based learning goes hand in hand. You can't separate it out. Once you separate it out, you can never have enough time to complete it.
And interdisciplinary. There is Boyle's law, Charles' law in physics, in chemistry,
In biology. In biology.
There is thermodynamics in physics, in chemistry.
In biology also.
Yes. It's just the planning that is required. So, and we can achieve it. So that's what I'm saying. So if you decide that your school would do everything to do with biology, and since I'm a chemistry teacher, so if I say I'll do all the chemistry work, and you are an English person, no, you're also chemistry. No. Okay, so she's a biology, two of them. No, what I'm saying is if we decide that we will have one chapter, the mind map, along with the flow chart, and we ensure that everything is there. I mean, we can make it so interesting for children, and we can have projects around it. I mean, it will be project-based learning, concept-based learning, everything we can do and complete the syllabus, and children will go back happy, and it will be so much
We have added one
nicer.
service project and one adventure activity in our 7th, 8th curriculum only. So we mark them on that. So then for that, we don't have to find space outside the classroom or where we would fit in. So that helps. I agree.
So coming back to my question that I originally wanted to ask, it's more on emotional intelligence. So I'm thankful that I belong to a school where teachers are constantly being taught or trained in different pedagogies and also about emotional intelligence. We have partnership with one of the tools, like you said, subscribed, where we can increase our emotional intelligence. The challenge I face in my classroom is, I'll give a simple example. Children don't want to be judged nowadays for anything, but they are so quick to judge everyone around them. Yes. And everyone, their peers, their teachers, their parents, everyone. And once in homeroom, I'll say, you are judging everyone, but you don't want to be judged. Have you done this introspection? For 2 seconds, they think, and then they forget about it. As educators, how can we increase the emotional intelligence in our children? What can we do to increase the emotional intelligence in our children? I mean, we can give them resources. They're not going to study any of those. How to increase the emotional intelligence of the parents?
So for 11 years plus, I practice as a clinical psychologist. And the first thing I want to say is that human nature is not formulary, okay? We have these psychometric assessments and they are helpful. At the end of the day, human nature is complex. People are complex and simple. So the way I look at things is that there's an amazing, and if you haven't read the book, it's called Emotional Agility, okay? We want our children to be agile so that they can be problem solvers, okay? So that they can think globally. And that is when it starts with curiosity. So if you want to exercise any intelligence, whether it's your emotional intelligence, whether it's your intellectual quotient,
It starts with curiosity. So I always tell my students that I'm not here to answer the questions, but to question the answers, because they are fed information all the time and with immediacy. So we can have everything, but once again, let's go back to what does human nature look like and what is good for our students' brain development. And it's those things like critical thinking, curiosity, and we don't call it soft skills anymore, we call them core skills, because they're at the core of who we are as humans. And I think that's the kind of culture we need to create in our offices. We need to be curious instead of giving, answers like go to a News World Report for this. Be curious about the child, get to know the student, and then take it from there, create that foundation.
Not one, no.
All right. So, ma'am, I come from, check, is it on? So I come from a school where we are catering to financially challenged students, but who are meritorious. And it's a philanthropic project of Shiv Nadar Foundation.
Yes, ma'am.
So our students are on, like you, comparing with yours, are on different, end of the spectrum. But we also have had a parent who took the child away after grade 10th. They didn't have resources because we suggested that the child can't study, do sciences. So they took the child away. So there will be pressures from parents,
Always,
which
ma'am.
will be
Always,
exceptional
ma'am.
cases.
Always.
Second, about multidisciplinary, I teach business studies and I am the senior coordinator. So with my team, we teach, there are topics like money. So I bring in the economics teacher, the accounts teacher, the English teacher, and then we frame a syllabus where the portion gets covered. Maybe it takes a little longer, but we do it. And another third thing that I've started is a reflection practice in class. So I made a corner with very ordinary chair. I said, whatever you do, if you make a mistake, you're supposed to spend half a minute, 2 minutes, 5
In the
minutes
chair.
in that chair.
Wonderful.
Anytime, and it's a boarding school, so we can afford to do more with them. So they sit and they come back and say, yes, ma'am, this is what I did wrong. I could have done this. So that adds to, at least that spark has been created to think in terms of sensitivity for themselves and for others.
Wonderful, ma'am.
Add one more thing here. You spoke about children not being allowed by the parents to do whatever, and the children took them out. There's one child I still remember about 5-6 years ago. He got about 60-62%, and he could barely scrape through his class 10, wanted science, and we said, no, we'll give you commerce without mathematics because he'd done very badly in math. He didn't know, poor thing. There's some children who are very good. He's not cut out for that. Anyway, so we'd given him, and our school, we give them books as well. So we'd given them his commerce books and all that. So first term examination happened and he failed in all subjects. So he failed, poor thing. He was a very good kid. So parents were called, and generally children who don't do well, I call them and say, how do we help you? How do we help the child, whatever. So I called the parents and I said, sir, tell us, how do we help the child? He said, this is not my child's report card. So I said, why? He says, because he's taken science. I said, no, but we've given him commerce. He said, no, he's taken science and he's going for these FITG classes. IIT JEE classes he's going for from the beginning. Not IIT JEE, the CPMT, the NEET classes. He's going for that. So we checked out, but we generally have a letter which is signed by the parents, where the parents write the subjects. And the parents' signatures are there. Only then we allow them, whatever they're registered for. So I said, no, but this letter we have from you, the signatures. So the parents said, no, but we didn't sign this. Now the child says, I had written it in pencil and I got their signatures. And now I've written it. Anyway, they pulled to cut the long story short, they pulled the child out. And the father told me, ma'am, I have a clinic and I have and I want my son to become a doctor and I can't help it. So even if he doesn't become a good doctor, he will do his MBBS and he will be the administrator in my hospital. So he has to go through this MBBS, and he went to some, back of the beyond, some place he went to, did his MBBS, and now I believe he's the administrator in his father's hospital. No, so he's just doing the administration. Because you have to be a doctor to be able to administer a hospital. So he's a CEO of the hospital, but he doesn't do anything to do with, I mean, he doesn't prescribe medicines. He doesn't do any surgery. Thank God for that. Poor thing. Now I think we are already 5 minutes this thing. How many would like the chocolate?
Well, thank you so much for